Hello everybody. Today we're going to talk about mitosis. Now I don't know what it is about science class and wanting to teach each stage and having you memorize every single stage.
This does not make the ribosomes happy.
I just don't see the point. So what we're going to look at today is the overall idea of mitosis and where we see it and why it's important. It's kind of like driving a car.
Have you driven a car before?
Yes, many times.
All right, let's go this way.
You need to know the basics of a car, but you might not need to know a timing belt or, I don't know, an alternator or a serpentine belt, things like that. So knowing the overall idea, I think, is more important than just the specifics. So let's do it. What we need to know is that all cells come from other cells. That's part of our cell theory that we had discussed previously. So if all cells come from other cells, we're going to be actually making copies of these cells. So if I started with one cell, I'm going to make a copy and I'm going to get two cells.
Meister, making copies.
All cells come from other cells. So when I say mitosis, I want you to remember mitosis is making copies. Now, why do we want to make copies? There's tons of reasons to make copies. One of the reasons is you started out as a tiny little egg that met a sperm, one cell, and now you're trillions of cells. So we had to grow. So growth is one of those pieces of why we want mitosis. I've got all kinds of scars on my body from doing all kinds of stupid things when I was younger.
High five!
And the reason why I'm still kind of patched up and okay today is because of mitosis. Mitosis ends up patching up any cuts and whatnot. The other thing is just regular wear and tear through your body. I am constantly losing skin cells.
Ooh, hello. Glad to be here.
And I'm constantly replacing those skin cells. Your skin cells last for maybe, 20, 30 days, and then you get rid of them, you get some new ones. Your stomach lining, you're constantly getting rid of cells there. They last for a couple days, and then you replace them again. It's a pretty hostile environment there. Your red blood cells last for maybe 4 months before they end up getting replaced. White blood cells don't last as long, maybe only just a couple days before they're replaced. So you can see we're constantly replacing cells from injury or from just normal wear and tear. And your whole body kind of runs through that. There are a couple cells that don't get replaced or rarely get replaced. Pacemaker cells in your heart, we don't replace those. The majority of the nerve cells throughout your body, those are also not replaced. So most cells are, but only a couple of them are not. And we're using mitosis for that. So how a cell divides, you have to understand that you're starting with one cell that then splits into two cells. So you started with one and you end up with two. It's not starting with one and ending up with three. That starting cell actually turns into two. There is a ton of information in every single cell of your body. And if you're going to make a copy of that information, you have to be very good at making those copies. To give you an idea of the amount of information that's in there, if you were to take a sheet of paper and put the A's, C's, T's, and G's that make up your DNA, and we're just looking at the nucleus, that stack of paper for that information to make you would be 420 some feet tall. That is taller than the Statue of Liberty. That's incredible. And you are constantly making copies of that with very few, if any, mistakes all the time, every second, millions and millions and millions of times every single day. Absolutely incredible that you're able to do that. It's incredible amounts of information. I don't think I could say incredible more than that, but it is incredible. So making those copies extremely important. So now we're going to look at how are these cells actually dividing? What's occurring in there? The classic look at this is to give you an onion root tip slide and then for you to identify these pieces in there. So before a cell can actually divide, it has to make a copy and get ready for this division. So your cells are going to copy the DNA. They're going to get a whole bunch of maybe extra mitochondria. They're going to get everything prepared for the division. So it's going to grow a little bit in size. None of that is really considered mitosis. That's not really the first step in mitosis. That's just getting ready for that mitosis. Once that cell is ready to divide, it needs to organize the DNA. The DNA is long, and we just said it's 420 some feet tall. And it's all intertwined. It's a hot mess. It's kind of like, I like to say it's a giant plate of spaghetti. Now, normally in the movies, they show you with this single spaghetti strand, it's easy to pull those apart and to separate spaghetti. That's not what I found. Spaghetti, when I eat it, it's a lot like in the movie Elf, just trying to separate this stuff out is just extremely difficult. So to get around that problem, what your cells will do is wind the DNA up. So you have these long strands and they wind them and compact them into nice little packets. And that packet we'll call a chromosome. So you're going to put all your chromosomes, and for you, it's going to be 46 packets. So we will have 46 packets with their copy attached to them. We'll then line those packets up in the center of the cell, and then I'm going to split, or our cells are going to split and move those packets to opposite sides of the cell. There's still research being done on how actually all these pieces come together and how we're able to organize it and do all that. So there's still mysteries out there that we're still trying to figure out, but we're getting better at it. So these packets of information, or DNA, are moving to opposite sides of the cell. Once it gets to the opposite sides of the cell, the nucleus is going to reform around, or the membrane is going to form around those pieces of DNA. The DNA can unwind, and the cell is actually going to start to pinch apart. And once it pinches apart, it'll pull apart, and you will get two cells. That's mitosis. There are names for all those steps, but like I said, I don't think that's important. What I think is important is that you know that there's some copying going on inside. The DNA lines up in the middle after it is packaged up. It then moves to opposite sides of the cell. Two new nuclei form, the cell pinches apart, and that's it. That's mitosis. Don't need to know all the super duper extra specifics, I don't feel. Just understanding that and why we need it. Why is it important to have mitosis? So you may be wondering, how fast does mitosis work? Well, it depends on the species of animal or plant. It depends on what part of the plant or animal or whatever you're looking at. So there's a whole bunch of pieces to that puzzle. So I'm just going to pick one, and that would be your first cell division. When you were one cell big, it took about 30 hours before you got your first cell division. And then 15 hours later, you got your second cell division. So, and it speeds up a little bit from there. So the amount of time is around, we can look, at least for a growing human, we're looking at, hours and days. That's what we're seeing mitosis occurring. Now, other cells in your body, they could be going faster or slower. Those are just the ones that I ended up picking. So that is a ballpark figure in how long it takes for certain things to grow. And that's it. That's mitosis. And again, I just wanted you to understand the process of mitosis. You're going to be copying that DNA. You're going to package it up into nice little packages. And then the originals and copies are going to be split apart evenly. And then that cell pinches apart. You started with a parent cell that then became two daughter cells that are identical, or they should be identical. We use that mitosis for growth, repair, and just the overall maintenance of our bodies. Next class, we're going to talk about cancer, which is a special case of mitosis. And unfortunately, I think a lot of us have a personal connection to that. So that's the next class. I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you on the next one.